ho, ho! Merry Christmas!
What's happening, guys?
Before we get into the episode, we want to help you out.
In case you didn't know, when we're not gobbing off in Eddie's bar, we're actually online coaches.
We are indeed, and as a former Royal Marines commando, Harry spends his time helping people physically prepare for life in the military, and I can guarantee he'll get you through any arduous course you can throw at him. Isn't that right, Shep?
Bang on, Rex. And if you're tired of looking and feeling like shit, then let Eddie help you take back control of your life. He used to be a fat sack, and now he looks like a Greek god. That could be you.
If you want to transform how you look, perform, and feel, then get in contact with us.
The link will be in the description.
Alright guys, and welcome to the 12th episode of Lifting the Lid.
In this episode, expect to find out what tactics the Royal Marines training team will use to get you to quit, how much you get paid as a Royal Marines recruit,
and why we think psychedelic drugs should be decriminalised in the UK.
Let's get into it.
Hello, and back into not below the bar.
Lifting the lid this time. We've gone back in. So we haven't done one of these for a good amount of time, but this is for anyone who is new to the podcast. Effectively, our kind of military arm of the pod, because we don't really talk about it on below the bar for obvious reasons. But on this episode specifically, it's going to be kind of Q&A based, where you, the listeners, have sent my Instagram some questions. Eddie's sort of cherry picked them again, and going to pose them to me, and we're going to answer them in a longer format. So hopefully there's some takeaway points from this one. Obviously we're going to go through the usual segments first, aren't we?
Yes. So we'll start off with Helmet of the Week. We'll rattle through this one. A, because the person in question doesn't deserve any airtime because he's a hat, which is why it's Helmet of the Week. And secondly, because we want to try and dedicate as much time as possible to actually covering military-based stuff, because that is the purpose of this podcast.
And your questions, because you kindly written them in.
Exactly. Right, so Helmet of the Week. Helmet of the Week this week, Joey Barton.
Yeah, so Joey Barton, this is your sort of input. So do you want to do some digging on why he's got that esteemed title?
Yeah, so if you keep up with the news, or you kind of have social media, you'll know why he's Helmet of the Week this week, because he's basically decided to cancel himself by calling out women's football as being shite.
Yeah, he would have been at the top of my list of ex-pro footballers to be cancelled, though, to be honest.
Yeah,
he was a helmet on the field.
So there's there's a few things that need unpacking here, right? Because obviously women's football isn't shite, which is why they're professional athletes.
Well, yeah, exactly. There wouldn't be a market for it if they were all shit, would
Exactly,
it?
And obviously it's not existed for as long as, well, in kind of a professional capacity, as the men's game.
No,
so
it's not.
You would expect it to be a bit behind male
Well, also,
football.
it's not, like, you can't compare it like for like, I always think. Like, if you watch a men's game, like top of the men's game and top of the women's game, and try and compare them, of course it looks a bit different, but it's just slower, really, because they haven't got the physical attributes to make it as explosive, as powerful, whatever. And that's all it is. And so, as long as you take it for what it is and don't expect them to be testosterone-fueled blokes, because they're not, then it's fine. It's its own entity. It's his own thing.
Yeah, but for anyone that's unaware, basically, Joey Barton came out, and I can't remember what he said it on originally, but he's now taken to Twitter to voice in his opinion, which is always a red flag.
Yeah, because they'll let anything on there.
Yeah, so because basically he said that, I think he took issue with a particular female pundit and said that she basically didn't have the credibility to be stood around the other male pundits.
He's just butter that he's not there, basically.
Yeah, but yeah, exactly. So if we unpack this, what we can take from it is he's basically butter that he's not now a pundit.
Yeah, but he was shit.
He was shit. Well,
and he had a short fuse. So he's got no business really telling people how to play football.
My outstanding memory of Joey Barton as a footballer is him basically being sent off and scrapping people on the pitch.
Yeah, so Roy Keane is similar in that respect, where he's always getting sent off, always kind of aggressive, but he did it in the right way. He was doing it to win the football match, or because there was a reason, or whatever.
And also, he had the major honours to back it up.
Well, and he had the skill and talent to back it up as well.
Joey Barton, right? This is a fact. You can research this yourself. Has as many criminal convictions as he does major honours to his name.
That's good, isn't it? And we went through the major honours before off air. What are they gone?
Yeah. So he's won the championship twice.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if you can count this as a major honour. He won Burnley Football Club Player of the Year 2015.
Yeah. Again, I wouldn't classify any of those as major.
Yeah, that's good, because he's been calling out women's footballers. So he's been calling out the Lionesses, who actually did win the Euros a few years ago.
Yeah.
And he had one England cap.
That is good. I mean, they'd probably get in the team quicker than he would.
Yeah.
And the thing, what was it? What were his convictions? Do you remember?
Like
I don't want
to commit slander here.
Yeah.
But it was something around violence. I think he'd basically scrapping in nightclubs and stuff.
Right. Yeah. He had a short little fuse, didn't he, on him? But
I think he served like a 2-month prison sentence, and then I think he got, for his other conviction, he got like a suspended sentence.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah. So, I mean, again, those convictions are actual convictions. The major honours are questionable at best.
Yeah.
So, if anything, they outweigh his footballing.
Yeah,
accolade.
And I think he retired with about like 300 professional appearances, like domestically, which isn't even that many.
It's not too many, is it? How long was his career? He was in from
standard length.
Yeah, it's not that many.
That's
really.
Not 300 appearances.
What's
isn't
that like?
Many.
It's just under 10 seasons, isn't it? I guess.
It's just, yeah,
like
just that's about 30 games a season. So
that's what I mean. Yeah,
it's not really that many because if you think about it, like even 10 years ago, like a football season, assuming that you kind of went a few games into like the various cups. You're talking like mid
44, 45.
Yeah,
games?
you're talking like high 30s, low 40s minimum.
Yeah, because isn't it like 38 fixtures, league fixtures?
Yeah,
something like that. And then you have obviously cup games around that. But he was playing for shit clubs, so they probably didn't have cup games.
Exactly, yeah. But if you want to laugh, then I do highly recommend reading his Wikipedia page because it doesn't make for great reading.
Not from his perspective, anyway.
Not
just
from his
mine.
perspective, but so that's Helmet of the Week. Enough said about that, really.
Yeah, really. I mean, he's got far too much airtime already.
Yeah, I mean, what you can take from that is people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones.
Yeah, good advice, and something that Joey Barton should take heed of.
Yeah, so that's Joey Barton anyway. Now we'll get into all kind of the military stuff.
Good stuff. Yeah,
we've been saving this up for a while now because it's been a few months since we've done.
Yeah, it's been quite a while because we did some guest stuff and then obviously just our other episodes. So the last one we did was what was the last one? Was it the 10 lessons?
Yes, it was a two-parter, wasn't it? It was like 10 lessons that you
took from training or something.
Took from training, yeah. They were good actually. So we're going more to a Q&A format, but before we get into the questions, I've written down a few things that have become apparent to me.
Okay.
That are kind of marine/military based that we need to cover because I think they'll be of benefit to the listeners who are interested in it.
Yeah, cool. So I think these are probably spawned from, I don't know what they are, but they're probably spawned from, you spent, I guess, a lot of time with individuals in that space in the last kind of couple of months with doing the seminar and stuff like that. So I'm guessing they've come from that exposure.
Yeah, so for anyone that's new around here, basically, obviously, me and Shep are best mates. And then, obviously, a few of our other friends now are also in the Marines.
Yeah.
So I, by default, spend a lot of time with bootnecks, basically.
Yeah, with that kind of culture, I guess.
So I'm like a civvy exposed to this, and I'm now kind of your vessel for communicating.
Yeah, it's kind of good because I've obviously had first-hand experience. You've had almost second-hand experience, and so you can, I guess, unpick it from a civilian perspective, which is what everyone or what the majority of our listeners are.
Yeah, so I can decipher this strange world for civilians.
It's good.
So the first thing that we need to cover is getting royally. Because this is dodgy to say the least.
Yeah, and this has been brought to your attention specifically by a certain individual this week.
Yeah, he will remain nameless.
He will definitely remain nameless.
But yeah, for the sake of his own career.
Yeah,
but
and respect.
It does need to be covered.
Yeah, so getting royally, do you want to just know what it is? It's it's a term. It's very loosely used in terms of like it means different things to different people, but it effectively means getting a little bit snaggy on the piss. So getting like, I don't know, when you'd have like troop drinks or troop like piss up whatever in house. There's a lot of like nudity that spawns from that for whatever reason. So, like naked bar can be called at any moment. Everyone has to get naked. That happens sometimes, and some people are kind of more.
Choose your words wisely.
Yeah, so sexuality is a spectrum, isn't it? So some people in the Corps will land a little bit further onto one side. That's all I'll say. And when they're naked and drunk, royally means different things to different people.
Yeah, so for me, royally means getting a bit homoerotic with the boys. From what I can gather, that's as a civilian, that's what I've kind of taken from getting royally.
Yeah, actually, one of my clients asked me this week. When you're away with the Corps, and obviously there's no females around, do you just bag each other off? And I said no.
I think that
because from my experience, that is the truth.
But I think that definitely has happened.
I don't think they bag each other off, but like, I think there's a.
Yeah, it was anecdotally I've heard I've heard of people who've like
confirmed
penises may have entered mouths.
What's that thing on sex education where what's his name now? That head teacher's son. What's his name?
Otis.
No, the head teacher.
Oh, Adam.
Yeah. When Adam goes to the army barracks and walks upstairs and they're tugging each other off.
Yeah.
So
basically, getting royally means kind of getting merry with the boys, and then as the night progresses, less and less clothes are worn, and genitals may enter mouths.
Yeah, it's not planned. It's not purposeful. It's not on the roster. It's not on orders. You mean? But it can happen. But it's all spawns from having a tight bond with each other. This isn't doing the Royal Navy's reputation any good. Is
no, because you are attached to the Navy.
Yeah, that's good. Anyway, that's getting royally. What's next on the agenda?
So the next thing that we need to unpack, and I don't think this is specific to the Marines, but again, it's something that needs to be kind of unpacked because to civilians this makes no sense. And this is like the gen culture.
Okay.
So what is gen?
So it means genuinely in most respects, right? So that it's used in kind of military parlance with respect to saying something is true or is the truth. And the kind of, I think what you're referring to is like the penalties that can come from lying basically about something.
Yeah, so obviously there's the word, but then there's also kind of like the forfeit culture associated with it.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So like if you say something, if you assert something to be true, you can do that to like, your utmost certainty without saying the word gen, and that's fine. As soon as you gen it, so as soon as you say it's gen, then if it doesn't happen, then you get a certain amount of punishments.
It's like making an oath or a promise, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like sacred.
And if you don't fulfill it, then there are various kind of repercussions.
Yeah, typically in the core, it's eyebrows.
Yeah, so we'll go through them now. So the first one is eyebrows, Jen, isn't it?
Yeah, so you'd have your eyebrows taken off basically. If you said, I don't know, fucking hell, it could be anything, right? So and lads will be knobheads with it as well. So you could say. You could gen the fact that this coffee's hot, right? And some of the lads would like hide it from you, make it go cold, and be like, "No, it's cold now." And then so they just they fuck around with it. And if that happens, then you'll get your eyebrows shaven off. So that's one thing. You can get like RoboCop as well, which is like
I like Robo Gen.
Which is like a hairstyle. I can't remember what it is now. Is it like fully shaved off with like a little bit on the front? I think that's it.
I thought it was just. It was like it was like the opposite of like Brazilian R9. You know where he had that triangle at the front. Yeah. It's basically bald to the middle of your head.
Yeah, because there's a foot in our group chat from training, and one of the lads getting that.
Is that eyebrows off as well, or is that just the top?
Sometimes
of the head?
I think it depends how savage people are feeling. But this like genuinely happens, and he's upheld as well.
So what happens, right? So obviously someone's been fucking robo-genned or whatever. So they're knocking up. So obviously like keeping up appearances and being like prim and proper is like a big part of like particularly Marine culture.
Yeah,
because you're supposedly kind of like a cut above like general squad is. What do the kind of like your seniors say if they see you cutting about with like a robo-gen trim?
So typically, so eyebrows is pretty easy. You can draw them back on. Everyone knows. Everyone knows, right? But it's like, it's just funny, isn't it? And then,
so you got blokes knocking about with fucking felt tip eyebrows.
It does happen, yeah. It's no good. You're better off probably getting them tattooed. Then you can be like fucking saying whatever you want.
Well, that's what I was talking to one of our other mates now who's coming to the end of Royal Marines training, and he was talking about eyebrows, Jen. And I was going like, well, you can't fucking see my eyebrows anyway because they're blonde. So I'd be fucking genning everything.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do? Superpower. You can't fucking see them anyway.
Yeah, but then you'd be fucking getting RoboCop because there's no penalty there.
Yeah.
The thing is, I guess normally that kind of the worst stuff will happen on like a deployment or something where there's not as much hierarchy there, and so you haven't got to cut about looking proper or whatever.
And you're like away for like a prolonged period of time.
And there's again,
and lads are bored as well.
That's what I mean. So that's where it comes from. And then you get your fucking hair shaved off or whatever it is, and then you look like an idiot basically. But most of the time it doesn't matter because you're just with the same group of lads, aren't you? So it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Unless like the hierarchy comes down or the lieutenant colonel comes down.
That does happen. Supposedly, right, there's a third gen now. That I heard about this from Ricky Vet. You know the guy on TikTok.
Yeah, but he's in the army.
So he's
I don't know anything about.
So we don't know about this, and I don't, because like it's hard to tell when his stuff is like legit or satire, because he kind of rides that line quite well. He's very deadpan. But apparently there's one called Naffy Tramp Gen now.
What does that mean?
So apparently it's like, so the same procedure, like it's Gen, but like Naffy Tramp Gen. So like if you get proven wrong, apparently you have to go and start begging for change outside the Naffy in your standard issue DOS bag.
That's hilarious. So there's so many things. Yeah, there's
and like short. I mean, I hope it's true, because that would be superb. But like,
it could be. I mean, yeah, that sounds bad. But that'd probably be after a few offences. It tends to get a little bit, a little bit silly after a few. So like, I won't get into it because it's quite incriminating for certain people. But like, sometimes at a certain unit, which I won't name, there's like a culture of, or there used to be anyway, a culture of kind of someone did something wrong, they would get a in-house punishment, so unofficial kind of punishment that would typically be like fizz-based, so it'd be like a 30-miler on the treadmill, whatever it is. And then if that individual messed up again, it would like multiply and multiply and multiply until effectively they're doing ridiculous things. And again, I won't say anything, but
yeah, right.
It's
so
like,
you're kind of operating like kangaroo courts almost, aren't you?
Absolutely, yeah. So and to be fair, a lot of that does uphold a certain standard within that, because it's very easy for you to just wrap your tits in that environment and be like, okay, well, let this slide, let that slide. But what it does is it upholds like a certain in-house standard that if you fall foul of, you're getting fucked with, which is good in a way. But I think sometimes people historically anyway, people in power have used it as like a bit of a authority.
I was going to say that's all well and good, but it's when people start abusing that system that it becomes a problem.
Yeah, so like back in the day, I think about probably 10 years ago, if we're talking about that kind of time, it was used as a bit of a piss taking, like taking it too far, ridiculous things. But then it got reined back to a point where it was kind of just fizz punishments, which is fine. And then, if you're leaving, for example, like your radio on, so it's draining the battery, for example, when you're not using it, that's a massive thing. So someone would go around, check the radios. If your radio is on, you'd get a fucking mad punishment. So it just stops. It makes you think again when you're like, fucking hell, should I check my kit one more time? Yeah, I fucking will, because I don't want to do another whatever it is.
Yeah.
So it kind of does work in a way, but again, I think there's right and wrong ways to uphold it and to kind of do it.
So there you go. That was useful. They don't tell you that in the brochure, do they?
No, they don't.
So now if you're going down to Limpston, mate, you're already one step ahead of the curve.
That's it. But I wouldn't start using all these words yet, because just wait until they're socialised into your vocabulary.
I was going to say, even if you're aware of them, don't turn up using the lingo, because that's the fast track to alienating your training team.
100%. Like, who the fuck is this hat? Yeah, so I mean,
even if you're aware of the concept, right, just rein it in until
use it to your own power.
Yeah. Because it's like you understand, but I don't think you understand.
Exactly, you've broken through the fourth wall there.
Right, okay, so let's get into some of these questions now.
Okay.
The first one we can double up, because these two are basically pretty similar.
Okay.
One's an extension of the other.
Go for it.
Right, so first up, how did you cope with the mental side of training? And then on top of that, did you ever seriously consider quitting at any point?
Okay, so I'll answer the second one first. I definitely did consider quitting, I think, at multiple points. I don't think I seriously considered it, in fairness, because there was never, again, I think these tie into each other, don't they? So like, there was never really ability to say, okay, I'm going to go home having not at least got kicked out, kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? It was never going to be my decision, because I just couldn't face coming back, because I'd gobbed off about it for a fair amount of time, hadn't I? So if I was going to come back having failed, I thought that was a bit embarrassing. So I used that as a lot of a kind of motivation to stick it out. And in terms of when I felt like quitting, I think just when things felt a little bit impossible, in terms of when maybe the learning curve was increasing a little bit past my ability, or when, for example, I did the 12-mile oat carry and I was absolutely hanging out at the back, thought I was like well below the standard physically, and I was like, if this is going to continue to, because that's like week 20 odd, something like that. So I was like, if this is going to continue to increase, continue to ramp up, I'm like, I'm not there. And so sometimes that gets in your head and you can start to talk yourself out of it.
See, the thing is, like, if the majority of blokes weren't questioning themselves and they weren't consider quitting at some point, I don't think the training process would be doing its job properly.
No, 100%. So like,
because the whole point is that it is a steep learning curve and it is supposed to push you.
We're supposed to select people out. That's the idea, isn't it? So the idea isn't that 60 people start and 60 people finish, because then there's probably, some of those 60 that shouldn't be there, that hasn't got.
Yeah, so if you haven't got lads that are kind of considering jacking it in,
or actually jacking it in,
then it wouldn't be doing its job, I don't think. So I think that's just normal.
The
difference between the people that continue to do it are the ones that fucking brown out. Are the guys that actually readdress the situation and say, no, like, I'll just have to keep going.
Yeah, it's a couple of things, isn't it? So
you're gonna have to address those mental questions in your head at some point. It's just the people that can shut them down and keep going.
Yeah, it's just the people who can deal with the question of quitting or not quitting and go the right way and take the right path rather than... Because they'll give you a lot of outs as well during training. Like, they'll say to you, okay, they'll start to paint a little bit of a picture. You'll be on exercise really, really cold and getting thrashed and whatever. Like, you can go home to a warm bed. I can have you there in 2 hours. You know what I mean? Like, all those kind of things. If they see you and like ping you that you're struggling, they'll hone in and they'll be like, okay, fucking recruit Shepherd or whatever. They'll be like, think about it, mate. There's a warm wagon over there. Like they're trying to like get you in, and of course, when you're in that certain state, that can sound really appealing. So like, I told the story I think before, but like we had, it's like one of the exercise Marshall Star pretty early on in training, and you're getting fucked about quite frequently. We had a kit muster which you have every morning, and the people that fail it get what's called flanked. So if you get on the flank, you're then getting thrashed for like a couple of hours. If you don't get on the flank, so if you pass the kit muster, you get to rest effectively for a few hours. So it's a nice little prof. But the lads who got on the flank because they think we were running a bit late, they saved the thrashing. So we thought they'd forgot. So it's normally directly after the kit muster. They saved it until the evening. So we were like chilling in the harbour area or whatever, and they called us. And they're like, right, fucking 3 ranks on the road if you're on the flank. So we all ran out, and they proceeded to like give us this horrific thrashing in the middle of winter, just up this steep sort of ravine thing. The main thing they were doing was like lining us up. I don't know if you can imagine, lining us up in the push-up position. So we were like shoulder to shoulder, facing the same way. The person at the bottom of the hill would have to crawl up through the gap that's left in the plank position, and then assume the same position, and that would just go and go and go until you're up the top of the hill. Then you go down, do like hill sprints, all that kind of shit. So at that point, they were like, right, this is going to fucking continue until 2 of you put your notice in. Yeah, so when they say that...
They like doing that, don't they? Yeah. Because it's like pitting you against each other.
100%. So when they say that, and you're like, well, if that's fucking true, and everyone here has the same attitude as me, which is not, that's not going to happen, we're just here. We're just going for fucking forever.
So to what extent is that true? Do they fully wait for 2 lads to fucking jack it in? Or is it more of a... It's a ploy. They're trying to get low-hanging fruit, basically.
Yeah, so it's a ploy, but in the early stages, because you'll still have those blokes that aren't quite there mentally, it will happen. Like, and they know that. When there's like it's week 8, I think Marshall Star, probably a bit further on now, but like that is pretty early on in the process. You probably still have people who aren't fully invested. And if you aren't fully invested and you're 2.5 hours into a thrashing, you think this is never going to end until I put my notice in. We had like one lad immediately on hearing that was like, yeah, all right, I'll do it. Immediately, mate. Completely got in his head.
So I'm guessing that like these ploys that they deploy to try and kind of like thin out the weaker people,
yeah,
they become less frequent as training goes on, because you then become less... It becomes less a case of trying to wheedle out the weaklings, and actually like at what point, because they've invested a certain amount of time and effort and money into you, do you actually become more of an asset to them, and it's about keeping you in?
Yeah, so like particularly in phase 2, that kind of happens. So after week 15, phase 2, that's supposed to be the sort of shift, but there's still that you're always in a training environment, so there's still that thing of, we're going to give you a bit of rope, as in give you a bit of freedom, but fucking hell, don't hang yourself with it. Like, if you take the piss and you start to slack up, you start to like let the standards slip, which happens because you're not fully fledged at that point. And sometimes if the like pressure's been applied for 16 weeks and that's been making you perform at a certain level, if that pressure comes off you, you can start to relax a little bit and start to say, okay, I'm not gonna bull my boots this morning, or I'm not gonna iron my whatever my bed sheets. And then if you start to do that and they notice that you're slacking off, then they'll hammer you again. So it's kind of phase 2 and into phase 2. They do start to let up ever so slightly, but there's always that threat of they can bring it down. Like, for example, before final exercise in our training phase, which is like week 27, 28, so super late on, our troop was getting a bit shit. Like lads kept fucking up. They kept being like, you still have inspections all the way through. They kept failing those and just not cleaning stuff, etc. And it built to a certain point where we had like a mud run the day before our final ex, which is fucking horrendous because you've packed all your stuff. Now all your stuff is in the mud in the estuary.
Yeah,
now you've got to clean it, deservice it. In 12 hours, you're deploying, so you're not getting any sleep before a week of getting no sleep. So it's just shocking. And so they can mount this pressure on, and they just know how to fuck with you at that point. They know what works, what doesn't work. Like,
well, we've said this before, haven't we? Like the art of the thrashing.
Yeah,
there is an art to it.
100%. There's a massive art, and there's also an art to the threat of the thrashing.
Yeah,
as well. So like,
the linguistics of the threat.
100%. So
knowing when to stick and when to carrot.
Yeah, and they can make it almost feel worse than it is physically, if that makes sense. They can make it feel like it's going to go on for longer, or they can make it feel more intense, whatever. They can single out blokes they want to single out, and that makes if that's you, that makes you feel at fault for the thrashing, which also plays in your head and thinks, okay, should I be here? Should I be making my lads do this? All that kind of thing. So it's all it is a fine art, and it's knowing whether, okay, is this troop super fit? So a phys thrashing isn't gonna do it. So we're gonna do like an admin thing for them or whatever.
Again, that's part of the art, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
knowing
it's
where your pain points are as a troop.
Yeah, and pushing certain buttons. We had a corporal who was extremely good at that. He was like the spare man. So we had like 3 sections, and every section has a corporal, and then we had an extra one for some reason. I think we had a 4 section, but he was like an extra edition, and he was like a training team veteran. Like, he'd been on fucking loads of training teams, and he was a savage, mate. He just loved it. And so if he was coming out and it was him who was doing the inspections or whatever, you knew you were in for a fucking good time.
That's good. Actually, while we're on psychological ploys that the training team will deploy to try and kind of separate the wheat from the chaff.
Yeah,
we've done the carrot.
Yeah.
We've done pitting you against each other. Yeah. The other one that springs to mind I've heard you talk about is the false endings.
Yeah, they're like a false ending. Yeah, so, I mean, that happens in every kind of scope they can possibly imagine, but kind of effectively you'll get told the finish line is here, you'll finish, you'll think you're done, you maybe take your kit off and all that kind of thing, and they'll be like, guess again, lads, it's over there. So this happened on Killer Yomp for us, which was fucking horrendous, which is the 12-hour insurgent Yomp to Final X. So Final X wasn't a good time for us. And we have like £100 on your back, absolutely written off. You can imagine like moving for that amount of time, and you think you've reached your harbour area, because you kind of know roughly from hearing it from other troops and stuff where it kind of finishes. You know, like scout huts there. Okay, cool. We know we're sort of finishing here. And they said, okay, because you stop every hour as well. So you stop every hour for 5 minutes, for like a bit of scran, and just take your burger off. So we stopped on the hour. And you kind of playing, you think, okay, well, we're kind of in the end, they're kind of at the end, so why would they stop us if we've got another hour? Or if we've got another hour, they'd stop us, but if we're near the end, surely they'd just push through. So you're kind of playing that weird little game in your head. And then they stood us up and they were like, right, lads, this is usually the finish point. However, this has happened, so fucking off you go to another K, 2K, or whatever, which at that speed, at that weight, takes fucking ages. So that was a real tough one. And that was another probably moment where, if it wasn't so late on in training, I would have considered fucking jacking it in, because that was horrendous in terms of like a mental sinking feeling. You've probably had it when, like, a false summit is a clear thing everyone knows about. When you're climbing a mountain, you think, fucking hell, this is a bit steep bit, innit? Surely the summit's here. And you get to that bit and it sort of rides again. It's the same thing, but it's a mental ploy they use. And so sometimes they'll do things, another one they'll use where they give you like a target that they know is just insurmountable. They do that so much. And again, so a good one is, there's a little drill you do in the gym phase early on in training, where it's like week 2, 3. You're learning all the little the pomp and pageantry of like the gym phase, which is, there's a lot of like routines, a lot of drills, sort of that kind of stuff. One of them is you've got to get the mats out for sit-ups. So they'll like give the command. You have like 30 seconds to get 60 blue mats next to each other in a perfect line, and you assume the position for sit-ups. It's impossible to do in 30 seconds. Absolutely, they know that, because there's 60 of you in the troop. As you get through training, there's less of you. You can do it. They give the command. Right, 3, 2, you're still going. Okay, go again. Right, so you put all the mats back, get back in. And you do that like 5 times. You're thinking, fuck it, when the hell is this? Obviously, we can't do it. And obviously, you're getting more and more tired by that point. It's just taking you longer. You're getting less into it before the fucking buzzer goes. You're like, fuck's sake. So that kind of thing happens all the time. Or they'll be like, okay, crawl to me, and you can stop. And then they just keep walking backwards. Yeah. It's fucking ridiculous. So yeah, there's loads of those sort of things. But again, all it's about is switching your brain off and thinking, they're going to do what they're going to do to me. I can't control that. All I can control is my effort level and the fact that I don't stop. That's it, isn't it? Really.
Yeah.
So that's all you've got. You've got to just manage your expectation in terms of they're gonna do what they're gonna do. That's fine. I'm just gonna fucking crack on.
That goes for life in general as well. You can't really control what happens to you in life. You can only control your reaction to it.
Correct. Yeah.
So there you go.
That's exactly what you need to take in. Because you also feel like, okay, well, I can control the fact whether I quit or whether I don't quit, and I can quit and make this stop. But you've got to think. I always used to project as well. I think I'll talk about this in the future. Like project into the future, my future self, as in like, okay, so at this juncture here, if I quit and go down that route, in a few hours when I'm warm and dry on the train, am I going to be threaders? The answer's always yes.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be warm by that point, and you're going to have forgotten about how shit it was. You might have sore legs, and you're like, oh, fucking hell, well, now I've got to go and disappoint my family and friends rather than crack on with the lads. So it's one of those things. You can use all these little ploys, but effectively it comes down to just keeping moving forward, and that's the best advice I've got. It's so simple.
Right, well, that was comprehensively answered there.
Yeah, went a bit of tangents there.
Good luck clipping that up. Right, okay, what should we go in with next? Would you change anything about Royal Marines training to make it a better product?
Good question.
Off the top of your head.
I don't know. I don't think I would change too much. I think what I would change is maybe certain sort of bits around physical exercise. So like around the phys sessions you do, I'd change like the warm-ups and the cool-down procedures, because then it's not changing the actual session, because the actual session needs to be there, because it's got to be hard, it's got to be a certain sort of thing. And again, we've spoken about this in the past, where there's a line, isn't there, between optimal phys and getting the right thing out of you, getting the right product out of you. And so if you can change the warm-up a little bit, so people are safer going into that session, that's one thing. If you can change the cool-down so people actually fucking stretch and don't get, again, so obviously the more this compounds and you get soreness, and you get little tight little niggles and that kind of thing, and you get overcompensations, the more that compounds over a 8-month intense course, the more injuries you're going to get. And they don't want people to get injured. That's not the idea. If they're going to have someone jack it in, they want it to be because it's been too much for them mentally or physically. If you just break down because you're injured, that's not what, because you could have been a really, really good Marine, but you've just been seen off.
So what does the warm-up and cool-down procedure look like? Does it follow the ramp protocol?
Probably loosely. I mean, there's definitely a little bit of a raise portion, but a lot of it's just like, push-ups.
Right.
Like do 10 push-ups, 10 squats, 10 sit-ups, like that kind of thing. Do 2 rounds of that. Sprint here, all that kind of thing. Yeah. It's like, it's not great. You're not like activating key muscles. You're not like doing mobility. You're not like, potentiating. Definitely not.
And like you said, they've got to ride the line between it being actually physically challenging
and it just being a civvy PT session.
And it just being a civvy PT session. Because if that was the goal, then you'd probably overhaul most of the stuff that you do down at Limpsey.
Oh yeah. Well, you wouldn't do
because it's suboptimal.
Well, you wouldn't do like 30-foot rope climbs with 30 kilos on your back. Like, exactly. You wouldn't do that because it's mental. But like
you said, that's low hanging fruit there, because like the aim of a warm up isn't to write someone off.
No.
Like, that's stupid. You don't want to be losing blokes because they haven't warmed up properly.
No, exactly. And if you can like increase someone's stability around the hip and then they're not going to roll around, all that kind of stuff, that's fine. And the same is true for like how they're going to perform in that individual session. But like cool downs are always like it's a little bit of like a meme in the Corps, in the military, that stretch off in the showers is something that he's always said.
Our Gaz always says that, doesn't he? He was a British Army PTI, and it's like that's his go-to anecdote, isn't it?
And that always happens. Like you finish a speed march, which is pretty taxing on the body, and rather than stretch you off, typically because push for time or whatever, they might do. Some PTIs are really good at it, and they might do now. To be fair, they might be a bit better at it. But typically they'll be like, right lads, stretch off in the shower, because they know no one wants to stretch, and no one's going to stretch.
Go and get royally in the shower.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That'll square you.
Or cooling down in and around the groin region.
Yeah, exactly.
Or warming up.
And maybe a little bit more focused remedial stuff. So like remedial phys, when someone's struggling with something, typically the PTRs will take them aside and say, okay, do this, this, and this. That sometimes happens. I think that could maybe happen more and more targeted. If someone's struggling with like rope climbs and you see that in week 1, okay, let's give them a specific fucking program to do in the grots on the night to make sure they can maybe hit it by week 9.
Yeah, mad that PTI is doing like actual PT work.
That is mad,
and not just thrashing people.
Yeah, well, PTIs do like thrashing people. Yeah. This is the thing. So like, and again, we're on about that line, riding that line, and they are fucking very good at that, selecting people out, because that's the fucking part of the job. And there's no one better at doing that. So. I think changing maybe the warm-up and cool-down would be the main thing.
Yeah. All right, there you go. Next question. I don't know if they're taking the piss for this question, but I will ask you anyway because we haven't covered it for a while. What are the stats surrounding women's pass rate into the Royal Marines?
0%. So that's good. Yeah.
So I think So anyone that's kind of in that sphere will know that it's 0%. But have we got a breakdown of like how far into training has
specifically? No, but I can give you some anecdotes. So like, females have passed the 9-week commando course, so they're coming from other areas of the military, army, navy, whatever, and passed the commando course.
So we've got all arms commandos that are female.
Yeah, 1 or 2, I think.
That's good. I didn't know that.
No, the other are.
That's cool.
So they passed the commando test, which is fucking mental. And then there's been no one that's gone through the full 36 weeks from civvy to marine yet.
Do we know how many have attempted it?
I don't know how many have attempted it. I know there was a kind of famous case, I guess, which was a Olympic rower or Olympic level rower, female, who got to about week 10, 11, right, and then got a hip injury, which is super common amongst females. And so that kind of thing, I think a lot of it is around their kind of, first of all, their genetic makeup and their hip Q angle, which is different to a bloke's, which makes when you axial load them, so when you load them from sort of the spine,
which is obviously a big component of training.
Huge, yeah, and especially the further you get through training. Like I was speaking about with the Killiant, with it being 12 hours, 100+ pounds on your back, it's fucking mental. And most blokes break, don't get me wrong, like, it's not like it's just because they're female. It's because, like, only a certain percentage of blokes make it through without their bodies breaking down. So, like, expecting females to come in and crack it is a bit mad. And the good thing is, I guess, they haven't lowered any of the standards to make it more accessible.
Yeah, so all of these tests and kind of exercises and loads, all the standards that are set, are designed for blokes.
Yeah.
Because historically, it was just blokes.
Yeah.
So where do you draw the line between like moving the goalpost, lowering the barrier to entry, making it relative to females, so it's comparatively fair.
Yeah.
Where does that? Because obviously the standards are set for a reason.
Yeah, that doesn't come into it, to be fair, and it shouldn't do, because effectively, if you're a female and I'm a 110 kilo male marine and I go down next to you, you've still got to drag me out of the conflict. It doesn't matter whether you can't say, "Oh no, I'm a female. I only passed this test. I passed the scale version, so someone else grab him." Like, that doesn't work. So in this kind of niche little specific area of the military, which needs to be a meritocracy, it should just be, okay, who can do this standard? It shouldn't be, it shouldn't be selective in terms of if a female can do it, then fucking great, let's get her in. But
it's hard, isn't it? But like you said, at the end of the day, it is life and death. You are training to be soldiers.
Yeah, and it's as simple as that. And the same is true for carrying load. If for whatever reason, a female isn't as competent, and for that reason I have to carry 30 pounds more, well, I'm less combat effective at the end of that, and that can't happen.
Because the enemy don't care.
Exactly, and so if like a troop of 8 blokes can spread the load evenly, versus a troop of 6 blokes and 2 birds, and the 6 blokes got to carry more, those 6 blokes are less combat effective, so they're going to probably brown out. Like, you can't have that. So, and you're right, the enemy don't care. So, it's done the right way so far, but unfortunately that just means that there hasn't been anyone get through yet. Doesn't mean there won't be.
It is an interesting one, isn't it? But I hope that a female does pass.
So do I.
Royal Marine training, that'll be class.
I'm actually training someone now to give it a crack. So.
Oh yeah, you might imagine if you
that'd be
sick. The first.
I want to do that. That'd be class. But
long-term goal.
That is a long-term goal.
You have to headhunt someone.
Yeah, I will. I'll probably do that at some point, because that'd be a sick thing to turn around and say. But like, effectively, females, if anyone's listening that wants to give it a crack, the most important thing in terms of the most important factor is like hip stability, effectively, and and like lower body robustness. So hamstrings, glutes, and hips, and all that kind of stuff has to be at the forefront of your training, because a lot of people can, like blokes do, just focus on push-ups, pull-ups, and sit-ups, which are important, but not nearly as important as being able to carry load.
Who'd be best placed from a female perspective to get through Royal Marines training? So let's riff on the idea that you want to like cherry pick someone. Yeah. Thinking like a professional like female sevens player or something.
Maybe. I think fucking hell, Tia Claire Toomey would crack it.
You reckon?
100%. She's fucking insane, lad.
Get her on board.
Mate, if you put her, honestly, because they do like loaded runs in CrossFit.
Yeah.
And she'll pack on like 30 pounds and be moving at like 7-minute miles. It's insane.
All those fucking the female CrossFit athletes are mental, mate.
Because there's no way they haven't got enough strength and stability. They have 100%. They've got the explosivity. It's if they had the endurance, then 100% they'd make it. And the obviously mentality, which they have because they're professional athletes. But
it's that thing though. It's like that's all optimal though, isn't it?
Yeah, you're right.
Would they be able to crack it in suboptimal conditions?
Yeah, I mean that's obviously the only other factor, isn't it? But I think she'd be very well placed because I mean, yes, like I say, an Olympic level rower went through and tried it, but I mean, the breadth of tests that the female top CrossFit athletes have been through and shown competency across is absurd. But I mean,
a female rugby player could give it a good
female rugby player would give it a good crack.
Obviously, the female CrossFit athletes, like the gold standard, aren't they?
Well, they can just do everything. Yeah, like, it's insane.
Obviously, realistically, maybe get like a fucking sevens player or something.
Yeah, and it's essentially if the CrossFit athlete pointed their training a little bit more towards trying to join, then stop doing snatches and stuff.
Well, that was a good, interesting thought exercise. Anyway, that. So, during training, how does pay work? Bit of boring admin related.
Yeah, so I'll cover this quickly. So again, it might change since I was in, but I think the first month I got paid something shocking like 800 quid, and then the following kind of months I think it's like 1200 take home.
And it slowly bumps up as you get through training.
So it bumps up when you pass, and then as you kind of go through the ranks and go through the kind of experience levels, it will go a bit more.
Right, there you go. The longer you stay in, the more you get paid.
Yeah, and the more trips you go on and stuff, you get extra money per day, depending on where you are and that kind of thing. So,
what if you needed shit in the middle of the 30 miler?
Then you go for a shit and catch up. There you go.
There you go. Actually, our mate, who is coming towards the end of Royal Marines training, spun me a horrible dit the other day.
Fantastic.
So he had the shits before he had like a bottom field session.
Yeah.
And he went for a piss and tried to squeeze out a fart and shat himself.
Nice.
He obviously didn't have time to get changed.
Yeah.
So he just did his bottom field session with shit in his kecks.
That's horrendous, isn't it?
That's so like Royal Marines though, isn't it? Like, and I was just like, wait, because the prospect of me doing a gym session with shit in my pants is like not even an option.
Yeah.
And he was just like, yeah, just crack it.
Yeah. Well, that's the attitude you have to have again. Like, because it's something you just can't do anything about. Because it's the same thing with like throwing up. If you're gonna, because that happens, obviously they push you to a certain extent. People throw up. So what happens with that? You'll have a fizz shirt on tucked into your trousers. You'll pull your shirt out and you just throw up down it.
What? What?
And then you'll crack on.
Surely it's better to spew just on the fucking grass.
Nah, because this is when you're in the gym.
Oh right, okay. I was gonna say
when you're in the this kept happening to one bloke. You know, some people are more like likely to be sick when they're hanging out. This bloke was just always sick, and like every session he'd come in from like camp circuits, whatever, and then go again. It's
that stinking. So you just have like a little pouch of vomit.
Yeah. So like, staff, I need to be sick. He's like, right, we'll fucking crack it then. Carry on.
That's disgusting.
Yeah, it's horrendous.
That's
what I mean.
Like a little marsupial pouch of puke.
Yeah, so you just have to like switch. Again, it's one of those things. Just switch off and continue. It's continuing regardless of your situation.
Yeah, there you go.
That's it. You don't that's kind of training in a nutshell.
If you don't want to do fizz when you got shit in your kecks, don't join the Marines.
Yeah, and again, I was never sick during a fizz session. It just I guess depends on how much you're getting exerted, or how close you've eaten to that fizz session.
I'm not covering that because that's boring. You know what question it is because you already addressed it on your Instagram this week.
Fantastic.
Do you have an initiation when you join a new unit?
Again, something I can't go into too much.
For legal reasons.
For OPSEC. But you not really. I mean, again, talking about it before, like 10 years ago, yes, you would have a proper fucking pretty stinking initiation. But now it's coming into more of kind of where it should be, which is like everyone's passed into a certain point. There shouldn't be any requirement to prove yourself more because you've done what you needed to. So not really. You might have
light-hearted.
Yeah, you might have
like
some
a lot more from a social perspective.
Yes, I'll tell you mine. You might have some like piss up regarded stuff, so it's not horrendous. You might have to down like a dirty pint or something, which is pretty dirty. But ours was like, I joined with another lad, the same troop with another bloke, and our first thing we did was went to Germany on a range package. Went to Hamburg, and obviously it's like the sex capital of the world, isn't it? So I keep saying that, capital of the world, but
as we found out when we went to Hamburg.
Yeah,
in the summer.
Like,
not that we were bagging off brasses, but
there's tons of sex shops and all that kind of thing. So like the lads took it upon themselves to go to a sex shop, buy 2 of the most embarrassing looking gimp masks, right? And we had to then roll a dice for the amount of hours we had to wear them in a public bar. So we're in a bar in a Friday night with like rammed full of people with the lads. I had like, and we swapped them halfway through. It's like 5 hours we rolled through Royal Force. We had like 2.5 hours in one of them, 2.5 hours in the other, because one of them was just like a straight up, full covered, spiky little mask, right, that you'd wear, and then the other one was worse because it was like a little mask and then a ball gag.
Oh, that's
so you couldn't even drink. So you're there sober, just like
that would hurt so much.
Your
after
jaw
all,
was
mate,
fucked, mate.
Salivating constantly as well.
Yeah,
like your mouth's open.
It was terrible. So that's one. They're just trying to embarrass you a little bit, and yeah, we had to. That was it, really. I think.
That's stinking. I've heard some horrible initiation stories, but again, we won't go into that.
Sometimes incriminating.
Thoughts on leaving the army and joining the Marines? Worth it?
Case dependent. What do you want from it? Like, ask yourself why you're trying to make that switch, and is realistically the Corps going to bring that? If it's a bit of challenge, then do the all arms course or try fucking SF, whatever. If it's to do more soldiering and get on more ops, then I'd fucking go and try and get badged, do SF, because the Marines, you've got like a probability as you may go and do some stuff more than the army. If you go and try and get badged, you fucking definitely will do some stuff. So train a bit harder, train a bit longer, and try and crack it.
Especially at the minute when, like, officially we're not actually kind of fighting anywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you actually want to see some action, you basically have to go SF because they're operating constantly all over the world,
all over the place. So I think it depends on your kind of reasoning for it. If you're again wanting to go and fight somewhere and do something proper and make or have something accomplished, have an accomplishment, then I would go for special forces. I think that's probably a better option. But if you're wanting to shift the kind of culture you're in with a similar sort of environment and a kind of higher standard, then yeah, join the Marines.
Lovely. We're rattling through these now.
Smash.
If I had my 18th during training, how would it be celebrated? I like the way that's the most pressing issue on your mind.
I always think this, mate. Like, you know, people asking fucking mental questions about training. Like, you're in fucking training. There's nothing else that matters, really.
What you should do, actually, first day of training, right, you should go up to your training team and go, right, it's my 18th in 3 weeks. How can I expect for this to be celebrated?
Yeah.
See how that goes down.
I'll tell you what will happen is you'll get put in the OG in 100%. You'll get put in the tank on your birthday 1,000,000%. That's like a tradition. That's by the training team. Hopefully you'll go out with the lads and piss it up. But again, it depends where you are in training. You could have a exercise over that weekend and it'll stop it because it's your fucking 18th birthday. Like, oh, lads. I know we're about to do a section attack, right? But hold on. We're going to get into Exeter, get pissed because it's fucking Smudger's 18th.
We've chinned off final X for you boys because it's Jimmy's 18th. So we're all going to get into town and have a knees up.
Yeah, exactly. So it probably won't be as celebrated as you might like. But I know lads who had significant birthdays on operations or, you know, fucking hell. You're signing up for a job and a lifestyle that is completely out of your control and completely unpredictable. So get in the mindset of, you know, you're not going to have much control over your fucking schedule and when you do things and when you don't do things. So that's just going to be how it is, man.
It's the same as any other job, isn't it?
But yeah, things don't stop because you're 18.
Exactly. It's the same as having an office job.
Yeah, you don't have a day off.
It's very rare that you get your birthday off unless you work at some Gucci startup where like there's no fucking hard or fast rules.
Yeah, you can take as much holiday as you like Red on. I think that's probably a little bit of a lesson to learn, I guess, because obviously quite young, so you probably won't get what you want in that respect. But you probably go out with the lads at some point and celebrate it.
Right. Final question.
Ooh.
I've lived in India all my life, but I have a British passport. Will there be a problem joining?
I would imagine no.
You're a British citizen?
Yeah, you'll be probably fine, but I think obviously you have to travel for tests and stuff, so it'll be a bit of an expense.
Yes, basically.
And it'll be a bit of admin and
If you've got deep pockets, it shouldn't be an issue.
And it should be okay with like the whole kind of joining process can be done online until the actual phys test, so you should be okay.
You should hope so in fucking 2020. We're basically in 2024 now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's probably just going to be a very different culture when you get to the Marines.
Right, well, there you go. Done.
Job done. Some good questions there, I reckon.
Nice variety as well.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's go back onto let's round things off.
Yeah.
The usual segments.
Perfect.
So we got underrated, overrated
first.
It's either underrated
You've charmed me.
or it's overrated.
Well, that was fucking dreadful.
Do you want to go first?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is very,
Before
very,
you forget yours again.
very appropriate for what I've been doing for the past few days. Underrated, overrated. Weatherspoons.
Yeah. Overrated by many of the population.
Very, yeah. It's a weird one, Weatherspoons, because
I was thinking about this the other day, actually.
if you don't drink much anymore like us, and like you actually do want a night out occasionally, Weatherspoons isn't that bad. As in, like, as long as you don't expose yourself to that kind of environment too often,
Yeah.
it serves a purpose, because the drinks are cheap, and as long as you've got a good group, it doesn't really matter where you are.
That's true.
So you may as well go somewhere with cheaper booze.
No, yeah, you're right.
But if you frequent a Weatherspoons all the time, then you need to have a long, hard look in the mirror.
Yeah, and if you eat there, there's a bit.
Oh,
of a problem
don't get on to no. That's not even an option.
Yeah.
I'm strictly on about booze in
Okay.
it.
Yeah, so I think you're right. However, I was thinking about this the other day when we went, I think 2 days ago, because the day before I'd been to Mulligan's in Manchester, which is a sick Irish bar.
Yeah.
Right. And it's got like fucking proper Irish tunes, live thing on. A little bit more expensive, yeah, but it's in the middle of Manchester. You expect that. And it was like busy and all that kind of stuff. You have a little dance floor, because that is just so much fucking better. And like, you don't have because it's like a bar as well. It's a bar come like dance floor. That's fantastic. If you had that in Spoons, that'd be amazing. But I think just because it's
a
Spoons,
Lloyd's bar is not a thing anymore,
I think they must
because they were the Spoons that had music.
Yeah, that's great.
There used to be one of them in Stourbridge.
Yeah, I know.
Which was great.
There's one in Exeter as well. One in training.
That's what you want.
Yeah, I think not having music on in a bar is a bit weird.
This is a deliberate thing that Tim Martin did, though.
Why?
You know, the owner of Spoons.
Save money.
Obviously, there's the royalties of playing music, but I think for like carte blanche, he was just like from the off, no Spoons are going to play music.
Why?
Don't know. It's like they've got no. It's like they don't have sport on, do they?
Yeah, that's shit.
They have the terrestrial channel, so like you might occasionally catch like Six Nations game because they're on ITV or whatever. But like they'll never have like
That's mental.
they'll never have Sky Sports.
That must be just purse strings. That.
Oh, there will be a reason behind it, but I'm not quite sure. I think it's not. I think it's to not alienate people. So like it's supposedly like so kind of bland that
Something
you can't,
for everyone.
It can't really offend anyone.
Yeah, okay, I guess so. So like if you went in and they didn't like the music, didn't like the TV that's on, you get jarred out.
Exactly. Whereas if there's just no music or no TV, it can't really jar you out.
I would imagine it's something as well from like an economics standpoint where they have to make the booze so cheap they can't really fork out licenses and all that kind of stuff.
Licenses, like to get like a commercial license to
play Sky
Sports in like a pub is mental. You wonder how most of these pubs like are still open.
Yeah, it's insane. Same with music, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
But live music in a bar is unmatched.
Yeah, that goes without saying.
And so I think it is overrated. Again, if you go there a lot, like at where we are now, so we're recording this on Christmas Eve. If you're watching it any other time, and we're about to go to a Weatherspoons where everyone we know, I guess, will be there, and that's the sick thing because it's like a little font of everyone you get there.
Yeah,
so
it's great. So you catching up with all your mates. It's like a kilometre down the road. All the booze is cheap. That's great. If you're in Spoons every weekend doing that, not so good.
Yeah, and probably drinking too much anyway for my liking.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to say overrated.
Yeah, I think overrated is fair.
Yeah. I don't think it's as overrated as it used to be. I don't know whether it's because we're just getting older now and we've grown out of that kind of student era.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
But like...
Well, I think that is something... Because you start to... When you're a student or younger... cheaper stuff is much more attractive, isn't it?
Yeah.
Whereas when you're older, I think like you realise you kind of get what you pay for a little bit. So like that bar I was just on about is more expensive, but it's also better. So like you know what I mean? It's one of those things.
Just don't go too far the other way and become a pretentious Guinness wanker.
Oh yeah, that's
because I know we've talked about this recently on the podcast, but it has become more and more apparent recently that there are a number of these individuals quite locally to me, and I don't like that.
Yeah, I don't like that either, and I will probably be calling some out today.
Yeah.
I can't wait for that. Yeah. So I would say overrated.
Perfect.
Fair.
Right, what's yours?
Underrated, overrated, psychedelics.
Oh, this is very relevant.
Yeah. So we both doing kind of that kind of thing, aren't we?
Yeah, it's been a while for me though.
Yeah,
back in my youth.
I thought I'd bring it. Cause I was sure you'd done it.
You're new on the scene. The new kid on the block.
Yeah, new on the scene. So I had my first psychedelic experience the other day, with a really, really low dose. And this isn't to glamorise drug taking, by the way. But I don't know. I wouldn't say they're probably either overrated or underrated because it's a bit of a difficult thing to say. But like, I think comparatively to other drugs used in the right setting and the right kind of dosage, they're okay. If you consider like cocaine as a comparison, which is so much more common, like that's fucking really destructive. Whereas sitting there chilling with your mates in a living room, whatever, getting some entertainment and feeling a bit euphoric is pretty cool.
I agree. I think what we can take from this is that the way that drugs are criminalised and classified in the UK is very distorted.
Yeah, it's mental.
So like psychedelics, I'm pretty sure are class A's.
I don't think you can overdose on them.
You can't.
Right.
I think it is physiologically impossible to overdose on. You can obviously like lose your mind.
Yeah,
but you can't actually, in the same way.
You could actually completely fuck yourself up.
If you went on a massive coke bender, your heart could basically explode.
Yeah, and if you mix, isn't it like, ket's massive as well, right? So if you mix ket and alcohol, you can actually just die.
Well, you can do that. You can overdose on ket quite easily because you will just like sedate yourself to death.
Yeah, I mean that's
the same with alcohol. It's the same with alcohol.
That is. Yeah, I was talking to my dad about this. Anyone who takes fucking cocaine or ket on a regular basis, you're just fucking stupid.
A lot of our mates.
Yeah.
Shout out to our mates if you're listening.
And I'll call them all out. They're knobheads. What are you doing? And obviously it's always context specific. Because I think doing any sort of psychedelics on a night out would be fucking really problematic.
Yeah. There's very much a time and a place for psychedelics.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's all about the setting. And I think, and obviously the dosage. Devil's in the dosage with everything, isn't it? So,
because obviously we've, not wanting to be cast as a hypocrite, we have obviously called out stoners in the past.
Yeah, exactly.
And the rap culture associated with being a stoner.
Yeah.
So you can definitely go too far one way.
That's what I mean, yeah. So it's
like
all about...
The devil is in the dosage.
It's all about dosage.
But if you do it correctly in the right environment, it can be quite a kind of like a mind-altering experience for the better, I think.
It can be, and that depends on the kind of level I think you're operating at in terms of which one you take. Because a lot like an actual magic mushroom can fully fucking take you west in terms of thinking. So I haven't done that kind of thing because I don't think I'd maybe vibe with that too well.
It is cool though, because if you think about it, so like not ordinarily, let's say your kind of normal operating system obviously has certain doors, and some of them are open and some of them are closed, right?
Yeah.
And day to day, you only have a certain set of keys, whereas psychedelics give you effectively a different set of keys, so you can open new doors.
That's a great way of describing it, yeah. Yeah.
So done in the right environment and the right setting, you can actually learn a lot about yourself.
No, you can, yeah, and that's why people come out of it and be like, fucking hell, I need to go to Australia or whatever. Like,
so it's actually
you start to think, fucking hell.
It's actually quite cool because you can unlock parts of your brain that you can't normally access.
Yeah. And again, I can't stress enough, don't do these things in the wrong environment, basically. And if obviously start fucking really small and
100%.
Don't take the piss with
If you are interested in this, right, read Drugs Without the Hot Air by Professor David Nutt. He used to be the government advisor for the Labour government on all things narcotics, and he got fired because he said that taking ecstasy is less dangerous than horse riding. Whereas if you unpack the statistics, it is.
No.
Because again, you can't overdose on ecstasy. Like pure ecstasy. So obviously people do dodgy pills and die, but that's because it's been cut down with like rat poison.
Yeah. So there's an initiative actually at Boomtown. Do you remember the drug tents? Yeah. So like,
they've stopped that, by the way, now.
That's
the Tory government stopped that.
That's bollocks. So what they used to do.
That's good, isn't it?
What they used to do at Boomtown, right, was they used to basically accept the fact that people take loads of drugs
because they will.
Regardless how much you say, fucking they're illegal, they're banned from the festival, whatever. People are off their tits at Boomtown. Yeah. So they accept that, and they put this tent up with like a team that could like assess people's like quality of people's drugs.
It's a charity, yeah.
So people will go in, and it's like a no judgment environment. You can't get arrested, all that. People will go in with their drugs they've bought. They would like give them to the drugs tent, and they would fucking get them tested to see whether they're actually what they've bought. Like, you buy ecstasy, like you say, and you get it fucking the test back, and you're like, fucking hell, 80% rat poison. That person's probably less likely to take that drug knowing that information. And so that, I think what happened, I forget the statistics, but I think like 70% of the people who took their drugs there left them there and didn't take them back because they were a load of bollocks. But if you like I say, awareness is the massive thing. So like, if you're aware of how bad the thing is you're taking, you probably won't take it.
Well, that's the great kind of articulation of the argument for legalising a lot of these drugs, because if they become legalised and then regulated in the same way that kind of alcohol has to be produced to a certain standard, if like ecstasy then had to be produced to a certain standard, there were laws and regulations against kind of cutting it down with bleach or whatever, then a lot of these unnecessary festival deaths wouldn't happen.
No, you're right. Yeah, massive irony, because the conservative viewpoint of it is ban them all, criminalise them all, make sure everyone who takes them is fucking going to jail. But it doesn't work, and we've shown it doesn't work.
Like the moral framing of drug use is flawed.
Yeah, 100%.
Like the criminalisation of drugs is bollocks, because as we said, people will always take them.
100%, always, mate. And a lot of things, kind of some good comes out of it as well. Like, particularly sometimes psychedelic stuff, where it can, like you say, open different doors. You can think about things differently or whatever. So,
and this is more and more now. Actually, this is where the government are going to have a lot of friction, I think, in the years to come in relation to the argument around the legalisation of a lot of illegal drugs, because it's now more than ever, a lot of emerging research is showing that psychedelic experiences are very good in helping people navigate like trauma, PTSD, end of life care as well.
Yeah,
people coming to terms with death effectively.
Yeah. It's mad.
And like this is clinical
research,
actual research.
You can leverage them for the good, and
so that completely underpins their whole drugs are bad, we should criminalise them all, because it's actually been shown now that they're highly beneficial, like clinically.
Yeah, and that's like someone who can't, and this is completely just me making this up, but like someone who can't produce like decent levels of serotonin and are clinically depressed from like a chemical standpoint, surely, providing them with ecstasy in like a certain dose with a certain amount of times, that could be a positive thing. If they can't access happiness, making them euphoric chemically, surely, how's that a bad thing?
Yeah, it's mental. Mate, drugs are good. Drugs are meant, as in like, not illegal street drugs, but as an amorphous concept, like drugs are sick. Well, they're amazing. That's why they're used to make people better.
Well, they're genius, yeah, exactly.
So the fact that some of them have just been like, it's weird, right? We unpack this, it's like we're high now. This the fact that someday someone's woken up and gone, no, that drug's bad,
and that drug's not,
but that drug's good. Like, how can you take a moral judgment of a drug's a drug?
I know, and again, it's all context specific. Caffeine's not good if you take it at 11 o'clock at night.
That's what it's so like. You know, ketamine is used clinically in hospitals.
Yeah,
but like then suddenly it's illegal for someone to take ketamine outside of a hospital environment.
Yeah,
it's weird that.
It is weird, but it's also controlled, I guess, in terms of the dosage.
But this is what I mean. So like, you don't hear of people like ODing on hospital.
Well, also
ketamine, do you?
Because the mad thing is like heroin, which is what you get given sometimes in hospital. If say like your fucking nan breaks a hip or something, she'll be given medical grade fucking morphine, basically.
It's an opioid, isn't it?
Which is an opioid, same as heroin, right? She doesn't come out of that a fucking heroin addict, does she?
No.
But if you thought the chemical hooks argument of you touch this drug and all of a sudden you're fucking attached to it and you won't be able to not take it, that completely unpacks that, because, like I say, your little nan would be a fucking heroin addict, but she's not, because she's not in an environment consistently and constantly where she feels like she has to be. She's all environment driven, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's socioeconomic, because if you're wanting to escape your fucking surroundings, basically, that's where people get alcoholism, drug addictions, all that kind of thing. That's where they all come from, is people trying to escape surroundings. And the best example of this I'll give is the Vietnam War.
Yeah,
you're aware
of
like
that one. Yeah, like
that. So again, like, pretty sure like 95% of the US forces in Vietnam were taking heroin like every single day just to get through the fact that they were in Vietnam, because it was gash, right? Again, when they came back, like 5% of them continued on heroin rather than what you would imagine, which would be like 85% of them. So 90% of them were able to go, okay, I'm in a different environment now. I'm now not as stressed, not as traumatized, and I can stop this. Because it's all you've changed there is their environment.
Yeah, you are a product of your environment.
Mad.
But there you go. I highly recommend Drugs Without the Hot Air by Professor David Nutt, because he basically makes the argument that the way that we classify drugs in the UK is completely flawed.
Yeah. So
and I hope you enjoyed that.
That was a little bit
two
of
people who aren't like neuropharmacologists trying to articulate why our drug system is bollocks.
Yeah. Well, I think we did it
justice, in fairness.
Cool. Anyway, what's our reason to be cheerful is
reasons to be cheerful.
Me,
Eddie.
Let's talk about how amazing I am.
Yeah. So this week, something you've been working up to for a while.
Yes. So we've done a lot of endurance-based challenges / activities this year.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to go back to my roots to finish the year off and set myself a strength goal. So this was like at the start of November.
Yeah.
I wanted to do a 200 kilo squat by the end of 2023. We gave myself about 2 months to do a fat squat dominant strength block.
Yeah.
My previous squat PR was 190. So I basically needed a 10 kg PR in 2 months. And as of Thursday this week, that was achieved.
It was. Should we overlay the video here? Yeah. So that is fucking. It's mad. What are you weighing?
I didn't actually
89.
weigh myself on the day, but the day before I was 89 kegs.
Okay, so over double body weight, well over double body weight, which is fucking class. So yeah, that's something like you say, we've been doing a lot of endurance based stuff, the marathon, etc. So it's pretty mad to be able to do a marathon in sub 4 hours at the start of the year and then crack whatever we've done. Well, you did a half marathon 2 weeks before, and then
that's
and
good,
then,
isn't it?
and
The
then,
week that I was supposed to be doing my 1 rep max squat PR,
yeah,
I had to push it back because we did crack a half marathon in Malaga.
Yeah, which didn't get a bad time either. So like the ability to be able to crack 13.1 miles in a decent time in the heat, and then crack a 200 kilo back squat is pretty fucking impressive, I think. So kudos.
I don't really know if there's a message behind that, really.
I guess stay ready.
Be ready for anything. There you go. That's the message.
I think the message is you should never be or exist in a kind of area where you can be like 8 to 12 weeks away from a goal you set.
Yeah, there you go. Always uphold a good level of general physical preparedness.
Exactly.
Because then you're never more than like a good solid training block away from achieving something pretty impressive.
Exactly that. So you should be able to you should be able to be pretty good across the board, so you can turn your hand to something specifically in 8 to 12 weeks and do pretty well at it.
There you go. And on that seismic bombshell.
Exactly. We're in. So this episode goes live on Christmas Day.
Yeah, so if you've made it this far and you've allocated some of your Christmas Day to listening to this podcast, then I can't thank you enough.
Yeah. Merry Christmas.
That's pretty cool, isn't it?
That is pretty cool. Merry Christmas from the Brewing Brothers.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, because no brakes on this train.
No, there's no brakes on the Brummy Brothers train. I feel like Shane Gillis now. Hold him on mic like that. Goodbye.
Yeah, so have a good Christmas or Nether's own week, depending on when you're watching this. And we'll see you next week.
Goodbye.
Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas!